Hey YouTube, this is Josh Mon here. Today we will be talking about Big Shock, yet another St. Augustine Distillery offering. This time though, I'll be talking about their port-finished bourbon. That's right. I haven't actually touched on their regular bourbon yet, but if you've somehow found my channel and not found the biggest whiskey channel on YouTube, I'd recommend that you go check out the Whiskey Tribe's video about their regular bourbon. Now this bottle of their port-finished bourbon is only available in their gift shop at the distillery itself, to my knowledge. My wife picked this up for me, I believe it was maybe when we were there for the anniversary. Doesn't matter, she got this for me, that's what I remember. We'll be drinking it today in a Glencairn glass, also from the St. Augustine Distillery. Now the stains on the glass, the water stains, are optional. You don't need to have these. You can only really get these if you have a terrible dishwasher like my own. Alright, I like these little bottles. I like these, I don't know, I think it's 375 milliliters, so much handier. Oh, I should mention this is packaged at 102 proof, so 51% alcohol. Now, I believe that St. Augustine Distillery's bourbon and their port-finished bourbon are exactly the same things, of course, except for the finish. With that being the case, let's see, I've got it written down here somewheres. So they, there it is. Sorry about that. So their mash bill is going to be 60% corn, about 22% malted barley, and 18% wheat. So it's very barley and wheat forward for a bourbon. I'm getting a lot of, I should say a lot of malty forward. On the nose, you get a lot of cornmeal, a little bit of lingonberry, and figginess to it. There's also, it's also a little bit hot. I should say that this, the age statement on this bourbon, and again, we got it a while ago, but the age statement says it was aged for 16 months, so it's very young. That said, despite its young age, and it does show that a little bit in its bright ethanol forward smell at first, but despite that, it smells very rich and sweet. It's got kind of an oily, leggy effect on the glass. It's woody. It smells good. I'm channeling my Whiskey Tribe here. Take the first sip like it's a very hot cup of coffee. Jammy is the word that really comes to my mind. It's got some chocolatey qualities as well, but let's see, someone, forgive my jumping back and forth to the computer, someone online, it's on distiller.com, they have a very thorough description. Resinous, that's the word that I was looking for. I knew they said it somewhere in their review and I couldn't find it. It is resinous. It sticks to the palate, almost frankincense-y. It's fruit forward and rich. It's got a lot of cedar and oak as well. Some people attribute a mintiness to this. I'm going to be very honest. I have struggled to find any clear minty notes present in pretty much any of the whiskeys I've had. I think my palate, my experiences, I just have a hard time picking that out. There's a little bit of citrus, and of course some vanilla. It's a very unique, very fun bourbon, and I should like to try more port-finished expressions. The port barrels, I should say, they get them from a winery nearby, the San Sebastian winery, When they're done with their port barrels, those go over to the St. Augustine Distillery. When St. Augustine Distillery is done with their bourbon barrels, some of those go over to the winery. St. Augustine is pretty cool. It's the oldest continuously inhabited city in North America. And it's got a lot of really fun attractions. Anyway, for my World War I tidbit for the day, I just recently started reading again about some pretty crazy armor. And I know there was a lot of different expressions of body armor in the First World War. And I'll get into those later. The Bashford Dean armor in particular is one of my real passionate rants. But the Brewster body armor, it looks almost like it was patterned after Ned Kelly's famous standoff armor. It looks like somebody strapped most of a plow to themselves. And I never really thought much of it. I know that it was pretty quickly disregarded as being too heavy and too expensive, too bulky. But for the first time today, I saw a contemporary video. And if I find the video again, I'll put a link in the description. At the very least, I'll put some pictures that seemed to show a test subject putting on the Brewster armor and marching out and standing while he received several rounds of fire. I believe it was from SMLEs, and kept standing. Now, the two possibilities here are either that we're hoodwinked by an old-timey Photoshop or video editing, or that the inventor of the body armor was completely insane. Either way, makes for a pretty interesting little bit of film. Anyway, I'll get on to the other body armors soon enough. They do play a pretty big role in my my World War I story that you can read online, The Mess of It All. I kind of imagine an alternate direction where all the body armors have gone, following after the patterns set forth by the RDT and the Sturmtruppen. But back to this whiskey. I feel like I've spoken at great length about the St. Augustine Distillery, and I hope that I don't come off as a raving fanboy, but it's a fun place to go, and I really enjoy their products. They tend to sell their products in a younger expression. Like I said, this is 16 months. They claim that they don't need to age as long because of the warm coastal air's effects upon the barrels, drawing it into and out of the pores of the wood more quickly. Even if that is the case, it does have some of that youngness still to it. Oh, I forgot to mention, just in case this is relevant at all, this bottle is marked as being from fall of 2016. That is not when we bought it, but that's when it was made. So it's quite possible that some of the less positive attributes are less present now. There's no literature on the back, just I can't really see it, a neat picture of their building and government warnings. But regardless, if you find yourself at the St. Augustine Distillery, I definitely recommend you give that a try if you want if you want to try a neat, fresh take on a young Floridian bourbon. Again, I'd like to thank distiller.com for letting me steal their word, resinous. And I hope that you guys have a great day. Thanks for listening.